What is going on, everyone? Today is September 18th, 2024. You are tuned in to the Invest in Hockey podcast. My name's Anthony Santini. I'm joined here with,
Eric Wilson.
and today we're talking NHL hockey. We have about just 2 weeks until the NHL season starts. And we're finally getting into that mode where we can start drafting our fantasy teams, joining teams, leaving leagues that you don't even want to join anymore, and really getting a good look at what the NHL season is going to look like too, especially with Media Day being today. I believe rookie camps are just around the corner and camps in general starting up in the next couple weeks. So we're going to get into fantasy talk, NHL talk, some of the news around the league. But for now, it's been 2 weeks into school. How are we feeling, Eric? What are we looking forward to come the next couple of weeks?
There's a lot of things to be excited about. I mean, especially for me and you, number one thing that sticks out to us is the Buffalo Bills game, which we're going to go to in less than a
Mhm.
week.
Yeah.
In terms of hockey, I'm very excited for what training camp has to hold. A lot of guys really need to prove that they're worth an NHL spot. For the Boston Bruins, at least, the one guy who I'm looking forward to see if it makes the team is Fabian Lysell, former first round pick. I'm not sure if you have your eyes on anyone in the league, whether it's a Leaf, a Bruin. A lot of guys have to prove something, and our fantasy talks are going to say that, right?
Yeah, there's so many players that we think will exceed expectations. And it feels like every player that you look at in the NHL right now, you look at them and you say, oh, like they had a bad season last year and they could definitely go for a better one next year. There's maybe only a handful of players that you could say, okay, they overachieved. And maybe this year it could be the same, if not maybe a little bit less. But so many players in the league ready for a breakout season and ready to exceed the expectations that we've had for them for a little bit. But to get us started, I know we just had last Monday, so I think it was September 9th, we had our Fantrax League draft, which is
Yeah.
a keeper league draft where you get to keep 10 players and there is minor eligible spots. So we did have a little bit of a conversation on the ride home from school, but I know we want to get into it on the pod too because it was
Yeah.
pretty interesting. Obviously, my team being last place, which was the goal. It was the goal. We wanted to be bad this year. We wanted to go
Yeah.
after those young guys. So I was able to pick Celebrini with the 1.01 draft pick. And I know you had someone at the eighth spot that you wanted to get into because you feel like he's due for a breakout season.
Yeah. So, I mean, you going Celebrini at one is undoubtedly best pick of the draft. I've heard everyone agree with that. I haven't heard any other takes. It's pretty interesting. We should note that Matvey Michkov was not available because he's not from this past draft class. So he was actually kept as a minor on a team. So he didn't even count towards the 10 guys, if I'm correct, right?
Hmm.
Which is a pretty interesting thing. So it wasn't like there was like a Michkov or like a top guy available with Celebrini. It kind of was just between him and um, anyone else in that draft. So I'm glad you went with Celebrini. I took Matthew Knies with the eighth overall pick, and I'm pretty happy because I had him on my draft board. I was hoping to get him in the first or second round, and I realized that the only thing I could regret is not picking up the winger that plays with Austin Matthews this season. So that's kind of my eyes, my foresight, but I don't know what you thought about my pick there.
I mean, I thought it was a good pick. I don't think that Nyes is going to be on that line with Matthews. If he does, it could be a good opportunity because then he could definitely put up 50 to 60 points, which I think he's finally going to be able to do because that's what we've seen last season as the opportunity for him if he is able to play on that line with Matthews. Obviously, I think the last 20 games of the season and just a sprinkle of the playoffs, Matthew Knies was a member of that line being that Tyler Bertuzzi kind of struggled in the goal scoring category. So I do think that the opportunity for Nyes is there. So I think even when you look at a player at the eighth spot that might not be there, like I didn't have Nyes going in the first round of the Fantrax Keeper League, but when you can look at a player and look at their ceiling and say, okay, out of the following players, who's available and what's kind of the highest I could see them achieving, and you look at Matthew Knies and you say, okay, well, I'd say the highest that he could achieve is probably what, a 30 goal 40 assist season. Like
Fair,
there's a
yeah.
lot of opportunity there to draft him considering the other maybe, not as talented players that went following that draft pick. So I thought it was a good pick overall, a little bit of a reach, but the reasoning behind it kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, it's one of those things that people don't talk about in fantasy hockey, but you're allowed to stack lines. You're allowed to stack players together. We should mention that we're in a salary cap league as well. So it's not just your regular dynasty, it's a full out dynasty. Salary cap, draft picks all the way up to round 14. And I think we used all of our picks pretty wisely because we were pretty dialed on the way home from school. It was probably 10 p.m. by the time that draft finished, but every pick went towards something decent and it led into a free agency draft, which I think we both got something decent out of. I don't know who you ended up picking up the other day, but that was kind of just like a draft part two almost, right?
Yeah, so pretty much to explain it for those listening, it was a breakdown of two teams that went, I guess the owners were unable to manage the teams or whatever it might be, and they pretty much did a redraft almost of those players. Then the players left behind were sent to free agency where people were given money where they could bid on them. So I ended up grabbing from those two teams Robert Thomas and Dylan Strome, which I was pretty happy with considering the AAV of Strome being 5 million. And I believe it's 5 million, and kind of coming out with that draft, not spending too much of my salary cap, which I'm coming a little bit closer to after our draft. I know last year I ran into that problem, but who were the two players that you came out with?
So I actually ended the draft um not a little shaky, but I think I only had one, call it auto pick, and that was a guy who I queued up. So I wasn't too disappointed, but I ended up grabbing Artur Shilovs from the Vancouver Canucks pretty late, and he has minor eligibility still. So that was kind of my late round, like I can't believe he's still available kind of goalie. In terms of players, it just felt like I was going winger, 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 like the whole draft, which I couldn't pass up on these guys who I'm about to mention. But sometimes fantasy hockey feels like you're just looking at positions and you got to look at the best player available sometimes too. And, it's going to maybe hurt me when my defensemen are struggling later this season unless I can make a big move. But that's a topic for later when I explain who my defensemen are. I'll highlight three guys who I'm pretty high on the wing. One of them is Jonathan Drouin, who I think I took in the third round of this draft. Really happy with that pick. He had like 50 plus points last year, I believe, and I don't think he even played the full 82. There's not as much competition this year if Nishushkin remains out. I think Drouin's a lock to play on McKinnon's line. Maybe get PP one time if he's lucky, but I mean, a cheap price. He's only making about $2 million, maybe.
I think so, yeah. Or I think it's three and a half.
Yeah, like cheap. So again, this was me going into the draft with the most cap or least cap space in the league. You had the most cap space in the league, so you had a little more flexibility with who you picked. But along with Drouin, I took Victor Olofsson, who's making $1 million this year. Um, Projected top line with Jack Eichel. I was super happy with that pick. He's on Vegas now for anyone who, forgot about Olofsson. Obviously, he's been out of the equation on certain teams for a while. But the third guy who I'm super high on is Jeff Skinner, who's making $3 million this year. And I just could not pass up on him. He's a lock to play with either Leon Draisaitl or Connor McDavid. McDavid is a player I do have, so I think that's another stack I was really looking forward to, and it kind of worked out perfect in terms of my wingers. So at least I can talk on a positive note for my forwards, but I'll let you maybe get into some of your picks there too, Sans.
Yeah, I had a couple nice picks that I liked coming from the main redraft. So grabbing Jeremy Lazon was one guy that I was really after. Obviously,
Oh
Celebrini
yeah.
was someone I was super happy with to grab, considering that he is, a little bit of the future of what hockey is going to become down the road. It's more of a 3-year plan, I'd say, picking up now. Like I don't see him coming out being my best player on the team, which is it's all right. I mean, it's not expected of him to be, which is totally fine drafting him at that position, but definitely down the road. And then going Aiden Hill also in the first round were my two picks that I think will, change the trajectory of my team because I needed a goalie. But yeah, I think keeper leagues are a lot of fun. It is great to do, and it gives you a little bit of strategy come down the road. But I know we wanted to get into our standard league and what rankings could look like personally for us, and if we were to rank our top 12 players in a 12-man league, where we think these players could draft come the standard ESPN point league. So without further ado, I know you want to get into yours first, then I could get into mine and we could kind of compare what we see.
Yeah, yeah. If you don't mind, I'll get into mine first. Standard leagues are the best because you can have the casual hockey fan who joins your league and still kind of gets the job done and still understands how to draft, right? But as soon as you get into a dynasty or a keeper, it gets a little tougher. So standard leagues, I'll start it off. There's no debate at number one. I've got Connor McDavid. Second off here, this is where the controversy starts. Number two is probably the greatest conversation we've had in years after we had a down year from Dry, up year from Matthews. So, anyways, I have Nathan McKinnon at two.
Oh,
I have Cale Makar at number three. I have David Pastrnak at number four. I have Leon Draisaitl at five. I have Austin Matthews at six. Brady Tkachuk at seven, captain of the Ottawa Senators. Number eight, second defenseman on this list, Roman Josi. I'll mention that he led the NHL, led defenseman in shots on goal last year. And then I have Jack Eichel at nine, proven winner there. Then I jump right into the Hughes brothers, where I have Jack Hughes at number 10, Quinn Hughes at 11. And finally, I'll mention a goalie for my 12th overall pick, last pick of the first round. I have UC Saros from the Nashville Predators. So I'll let you get into your picks before we analyze mine, but I love making those standard ones, and I'm sure it was likewise for you.
yeah, love it. I mean, so to start us off, it's kind of the same boat going. McDavid at one. I got McKinnon at two. At three, I went Austin Matthews. I feel like he's gonna be a good grab at that three spot. Four, I'm going Cale Makar. He has to be in that top five no matter what. Hands down, the best defenseman in any league that you can get him. No matter where you draft him, I feel like you can't go wrong having him on your team. Number five, I'm going Leon Draisaitl. Number six, David Pastrnak. Number seven, Nikita Kucherov, who won the Hart Trophy last year. I feel like it's going to be another big year for him. Maybe a reach a little bit coming into that top 10 spot, but I feel like with what he did last year, Nikita Kucherov at the seven spot.
Yes, I will correct you for our viewers, and we'll say 2 years ago now because McKinnon did win it, but
Oh, my bad.
yeah,
Sorry.
it's all good. I just don't want our viewers to be confused. But you are right. He's a Hart Trophy winner. So
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, coming off what should have been a Hart Trophy winning season, if obviously McKinnon wasn't in the mix last year, he was just phenomenal last year, scoring what, 150 some odd points, or was it 135 some? I'm forgetting the
a lot
number
of
off.
points, a lot of
But
points throughout the whole year. Yeah.
I
So
believe it was 150, or it might have been, or he had 100 assists, was a crazy stat.
yeah.
Next up, anyways, we got number eight, Mikko Rantanen, who I feel like is due for a really big bounce back year and a great player in any fantasy league. I feel like he was going out of the top 12 last year, but he has a lot of opportunity this year. I know you had Brady Tkachuk in the top 10, but I'm putting Matthew Tkachuk in my top 10. Got him at the nine spot. Then I got the second defenseman going off, Quinn Hughes at the 10. 11, I got Rasmus Dahlin. And then at 12, I was kind of torn between Yossi, Jack Hughes, or William Nylander. But I feel like with William Nylander having the opportunity to be a center this year, and have that center right wing eligibility, I feel like the scoring opportunity is going to be plentiful. It could be ridiculous. So I'm going to put Quinn or William Nylander at the 12 spot.
I gotta hate on that just because I'm a Willie hater, but realistically, I think we had some pretty a pretty similar top 12. Honestly, I'm pretty impressed. I thought we'd have like a bit different, at least from like 8 to 12, but both having Quinn Hughes in there is pretty legit. I think after that Norris Trophy from him, like he's really good, and I think he proved a lot of people wrong last year.
Oh, for sure.
Um,
For sure.
in terms of Ranton in there, I think you make a very good point because he's on a contract year, I believe. So, I mean,
Yeah.
not that he has, he's gonna make money no matter what, but he's gonna shoot the puck. He's got again the second best center in the league. right beside him pretty much, and possibly Drouin on that wing. But yeah, I like that list. I think I might have made a mistake now that I look back, not including Kucherov in the top 12, but hey, it could be a down year. You never know, right? So I like
Never know.
those lists, and I think it's a really good debate, especially with goalies, right? Because you don't have a goalie in your top 12. I do, but that being said, I don't think I would take a goalie if I had the 12th overall pick. You know what I'm saying?
Probably not. Probably not. No.
Like it's a really good debate, and I think even on NHL's fantasy most recent podcast, they talked about how goalies can just kill you. I mean, my first year of fantasy hockey, I took Carey Price, sixth overall, and unfortunately, that was his downfall year, where things took a turn and it led to an injury the following year. But it was the start of like a horrific fantasy run for me, and I'm trying to bounce back. I got to still change my team name, so I'm sure you know a lot about that, Sans.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, Eric was actually called the fantasy guy last year. And after this guy won the league, which, new kids on the block came in and
Yeah,
tore the league up. Obviously, it was almost a little bit too easy for me, but the one request was for the fantasy guy to change his name. So
yeah.
looking forward to that. But I know we wanted to also do our top 12 of keeper draft. So this is for any league that's coming in. Maybe you have a bunch of friends looking to get into a keeper draft, and this is going to go for years down the road. So you had your top 12. I wanted to kind of bounce back with you to see who you had, and then I could give you my opinion on it. So without further ado, take it away.
Yeah. All right. So it's going to be controversial from the start, or I'll say from the two mark, just because it just seems like it's that magic number two. After all these podcasts have kind of said a similar thing, but we'll go Connor McDavid number one. We're gonna turn it right to another Connor at number two, Connor Bedard. Second most valuable in a keeper league in my eyes. The age gap, I don't think people realize how big the age gap is. Like he's 19, and a guy like Nathan McKinnon, who I'm gonna put right at three, is already like 28 almost, right? So you're looking at about 10-year difference almost. Age is a big thing in keeper leagues, and that's why I have Connor Bedard at two. Again, McKinnon at three. I just think that he lives such a lifestyle that he lives that healthy lifestyle where he's fast. He's gonna play till he's probably 42 maybe. I think he's gonna play a long time. Um, I got Austin Matthews at four. Um, Again, a guy who's just gonna score goals and break a record one day. I think you can agree with that stance too.
Oh yeah.
Cam McCarr at number five. Again, generational defenseman. I'm going Jack Hughes at six. I think we haven't even seen the best of Jack Hughes, and people really just are impatient. That's that. We'll go Leon Draisaitl at seven. The Oilers need to just keep being a really good regular season team and making the playoffs. I'm gonna go Quinn Hughes at number eight. Here's where my sleeper slash like big breakout is gonna come in. I have Adam Fantilli at number nine, and I have Juraj Slavkovsky at number 10. And to wrap up the list, I have the Kachuk brothers. So I have Brady Kachuk at number 11, and I have Matthew Kachuk at number 12. So yeah, well, you tell me what you think, because that was a lot of players to say, Sans.
Yeah, I mean, I like your top five. I feel like without a doubt, that's kind of where I'd have my exact same list. Obviously, tailing off to that 8 to 12 spot is where I think things really picked up. So going McDavid, Bedard, McKinnon, Matthews, McCarr, Jack Hughes, Draisaitl, Quinn Hughes, I definitely agree with everything up to Quinn Hughes. I'd say any of these four players, or sorry, five players, excuse me, should be interchanged between a couple other options and young players in the league. Having Fantilli at the nine spot, I feel like is your biggest maybe flaw in the list, but the opportunity for him in Columbus and take the reins there with a lot of opportunity with that power play, playing with Kent Johnson, the likes of some other great players too. A lot of opportunity come down the road. So I like that. Quinn Hughes with the season he just came off of. You can't go wrong having him as the second defenseman off the board. Maybe you could have a goalie in this top 12 that you really trust, but I don't feel like there's a young goalie as good at a young age where you can hold on to him years down the road. Slavkovsky, I like the pick. for the opportunity he could have with Montreal. But me personally, I think I'd rather go Brady or Matthew Tkachuk. And then the brothers going back to back, Brady going first and then Matthew, I totally agree with. Maybe there could be other young players that you really want to reach for just to grab because it is a keeper league. But
Yeah.
I am more than happy with your list. So I'd say I completely agree with the top six for sure.
Hey, that's good. Usually we don't always agree with picks, but I respect that. Thank you for the input there. I don't know if there's like one guy where you're like maybe we're expecting him, but I think we have a similar mindset where like these guys are all still young. They're all like either in their prime or not even close to hitting it yet, right? So
Yeah.
so many names to talk about. Obviously the league's expanding. We're already at 32 teams, so it just means more opportunity for breakouts, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think that brings in a good discussion of a lot of these guys are on big original six teams or big Canadian teams. Um, we're gonna kind of just get right into breakout candidates where we blindly chose these, and I think we have a similar breakout candidate for one position. Let's go right into biggest breakout candidates league wide in a regular league. So if you're gonna pick up a forward, a defenseman, and a goalie, I'll let you put your hands on that.
So my forward that I'm going to take is Sebastian Aho. I feel like a lot of opportunity now with Gensel being gone with Carolina. They need some offensive fire, and I feel like it's kind of that time for him that he can score his 40 plus goal season and lead Carolina to a good playoff spot. So for me, I'm picking Sebastian Aho. Always been undervalued in many leagues. If you could
Oh
scoop him
yeah.
up in that second, maybe mid second round to late third round, I feel like that's where he should be perched up, waiting to be drafted, and a great spot at that. Jake Sanderson's my defenseman that I think will have a big opportunity on the power play, and I know you're going to get into that as well.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's his real breakout season where he should have a lot of opportunity with a struggling Ottawa team that needs to be successful, or
Yeah.
else they're going to start losing some of their star players. And my third, the goalie, is going to be Dustin Wolf, who looks like he's going to be the goaltender number one for the Calgary Flames, which are not a good hockey team, but maybe his performance could turn that around. So Aho, Sanderson, and Dustin Wolf are my three breakout candidates for this upcoming season.
I like it. I like it because it's bold, especially with Wolf and Aho. Those are bold picks, but like again, there's rationale behind it, right? I'm gonna make the take right here before I even get into mine. I think Carolina's top line is a top like three top line in the league. You have Jarvis, Svechnikov, and Aho playing together, which we've never seen Carolina just stack up a top line like that. But I think it's time that you stack up a right shot in Jarvis, who's like 22. You get Svechnikov, who's 25, needs to have a big year. And then you throw Aho there, who's call it like an 80-point guy who I guess what you're saying is this he could have that 40 goal, 60 assist year. It's time, right?
Yeah.
So I like that a lot. Um, I like I won't say I like the Wolf pick. I'll be real. I don't like it, but I can see where you're coming from in terms of Calgary and I guess his opportunity, especially if you're in a league where starts matter. If you need to get your starts every week, Wolf will get you probably 2 starts a week. And then they'll have to play. I don't know who their backup even is. I don't think Vladar is there anymore, but
No, I
uh,
don't think so.
if he is, then I guess Vladar would play a little too. But I'll get into mine, and I want to hear your thoughts. Dylan Gunther is my breakout candidate on Utah. He is going to have a big year, and he's going to surpass his career high easily, and he's going to surpass a lot of projections, whether that's his shot totals. Um, I don't think people give anyone patience anymore, but Dylan Gunther, top 10 pick, scored the call it golden goal in the World Juniors for Canada. He's going to come in with confidence. Not only can he shoot the puck, but I think he can do it all. I think he can do it all. I think he's going to go for 65 points this year.
Wow, nice.
I the defense position, I'm exactly in your shoes. I picked Jake Sanderson. And the only thing that would have held me back is if Jacob Chikrin was still there for the competition. But this year, Thomas Chabot needs to prove it himself as a two-way defenseman and not just that offensive guy. He struggled all around the ice last year, and that should give Sanderson the number one power play There we go. Young Gun Sanderson. There we go. That's a beautiful card, by the way. It's a nice design with the Sens jersey there. Yeah, Sanderson, it's time to break out, especially with that contract finally hitting. I think this is the first year that Sanderson will make his $8 million. Because I think his ELC is done now. But
Yeah.
I'll go into my goaltender. It's a goalie that people don't really know about. He's under the radar, and his name's Justus Annunen.
Ooh, bang.
I'll let you give me your quick thoughts before I get into him. But yeah,
He's a young player that needs to have good starts if he comes into games for Gorgiev, because I feel like last year at the tail end of the year, Gorgiev almost lost his net, especially in the playoffs too. Like he wasn't playing his best hockey, and that's where that talk of getting a Noonan in there could come this season, because I believe there was a lot of talk about maybe not starting Gorgiev moving forward, and it's just going to be up to Noonan if he could step up to the plate and quarterback in net pretty much a very, very good Colorado team. So I got my eyes on a Noonan too.
100%. And I'll throw in a little quote here actually from the boys over at DobberHockey. They mentioned that Anunen's already better than Gorgiev, and it's just a matter of time until he steals the crease. So I was
Yeah.
a little more confident after reading their fantasy guide. You guys should check it out at dobbersports.com. It's available. Great value, comes in a PDF format. You just download it. It doesn't have to take time to come in the mail. But with the season coming soon, it's a great choice. Goaltenders are, call it high risk, high reward, Sans. I'm sure you agree there.
Yeah.
If you're gonna take a goalie after your starting goalie, Noonan's a great choice. Don't take him as your number one. Um, but that being said, if you do have Alexander Gorgiev, that's who I have in our keeper league. I'm gonna grab a Noonan so I have that stack and I have the
Yeah.
82 game guarantee.
Sure.
Because like I said, the having 3 starts a week is pretty normal in leagues where if you don't start 3 goalies, your opponent's gonna win the goalie cats. So I won't ramble on about Noonan a lot, but I think that's a really big breakout candidate. And there's not many teams out there where the backup can just challenge the starter from the get go from game one, but he can. He 100% can.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, yeah, a lot of good talk coming up with the NHL season approaching and only 2 weeks left at that. I know we have still two drafts, so we're looking forward to that. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for today, and obviously a good episode. Lots more fantasy talk to come. Looking forward to this season and hopefully grabbing another chip. But anything else on your plate?
Nothing crazy. Just yeah, draft prep. I think I have 3 drafts this upcoming weekend. Or I guess it's the weekend of the 29th. So 2 weeks till
Yeah.
I have a 3 draft weekend. Might not be able to make those in-person ones, but I'm ready to see the people dress pretty classy for those. So that'll
Love
be
it.
exciting. Make sure you guys subscribe to the pod, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and everything. So give us a shout and we hope you enjoy your drafts.